You got the raise, the one you'd been chasing for years. The number on your paycheck went up, and for a few weeks, it felt incredible. So you bought the nicer car. You moved into the bigger place, you upgraded the phone, the furniture, the vacations, and somewhere along the way, without you ever noticing the exact moment it happened, the new money stopped feeling like more. It started feeling like normal. Now, you're standing in the middle of a life your younger self would have called wealthy, quietly wondering why you still don't feel rich. Most people assume this is a personal failing. You're ungrateful, you're greedy, you just need to slow down and appreciate what you have. But that's not quite right. What's happening to you isn't a character flaw. It's one of the most thoroughly documented patterns in all of psychology. And once you see the machinery behind it, you'll understand something unsettling. The feeling of being rich was never something you could actually reach, because the brain you're using to chase it was built, quite specifically, to take it away from you. In 1971, two psychologists, Philip Brickman and Donald Campbell, gave this phenomenon a name. In a paper with the grand title Hedonic Relativism and Planning the Good Society, they argued that human beings have a kind of internal thermostat for happiness. Good things happen and your mood spikes. Bad things happen and it sinks. But either way, after a while, the needle always drifts back toward where it started. They called it the hedonic treadmill. You can run as hard as you want, chase the raise, the house, the status, but the belt keeps moving under your feet, and you end up exactly where you began. For a few years, it was just a theory. Then in 1978, Brickman and two colleagues, Dan Coates and Ronnie Janoff Bowman, decided to test it in the most extreme way they could think of. They went looking for people whose lives had been turned completely upside down. They interviewed 22 people who had recently won the lottery, some of them enormous jackpots. And they interviewed 29 people who had been paralyzed in accidents, now living with paraplegia. The prediction seemed obvious. The lottery winners should be floating on air. The accident victims should be shattered. The study was published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, and the results stopped people cold. The lottery winners were barely happier than an ordinary control group of their neighbors. And it got stranger. They actually reported taking less pleasure from everyday things. A good meal, a morning coffee, a conversation with a friend. After the jackpot, the ordinary joys had dimmed. As for the people who had been paralyzed, they were nowhere near as miserable as everyone assumed. Within months, both groups had drifted back towards something close to their old baseline. The single most life-altering event imaginable in either direction had a shockingly small effect on lasting happiness. So why does this happen? The mechanism has two engines and they run constantly. The first is habituation. Whatever you have right now quietly becomes your new reference point, the baseline you measure everything else against. The first time you drove that new car, it thrilled you. By month 6, it was just a car. Your brain had reset its definition of normal, and the thrill now required something newer to bring it back. Psychologists call this your adaptation level, and it climbs every single time you do. The gap between what you have and what would finally feel like more never actually closes. You just keep dragging the finish line along with you. The second engine is comparison, and this is where money turns genuinely cruel, because you don't judge your wealth in a vacuum. You judge it against the people around you. And when your income goes up, the people around you change too. You move to the nicer neighborhood where everyone already has a nicer car than the one that thrilled you last year. You're not measuring against your old life anymore. You're measuring against your new neighbors. So even as the absolute numbers climb, the relative gap that actually drives the feeling stays stubbornly, permanently open. This is where it stops being abstract, because researchers have put hard numbers on it. In 2010, two Princeton researchers, the Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman and the economist Angus Deaton, analyzed survey responses from more than 450,000 Americans. They found that day-to-day emotional well-being did rise with income, but only up to a point. Past roughly $75,000 a year, the line flattened out. More money kept improving how people rated their lives on paper, but it stopped improving how they actually felt moment to moment. The $75,000 ceiling became one of the most famous findings in modern psychology. Then, in 2021, a researcher named Matthew Killingsworth at the University of Pennsylvania came along and broke it. Instead of asking people to remember how they'd felt, he built an app that pinged them at random moments throughout the day and asked how they felt right then, in real time. His data showed no ceiling at all. Happiness kept rising with income, well past 75,000, with no plateau anywhere in sight. Two careful studies, two flatly contradictory answers. Now, most scientists would just argue about this in journals for a decade. Kahneman did something rarer. He invited Killingsworth to work with him directly, with a third researcher, Barbara Mellers, brought in as a neutral referee. He called it an adversarial collaboration. In 2023, they published what they found together, and the answer was strangely satisfying. Both of them had been right about different people. For the large majority, happiness really does keep climbing with income, with no ceiling. But for an unhappy minority, people already weighed down by something money can't fix, well-being rose until about $100,000 and then went flat. Money kept buying happiness for the already happy. For the miserable, it bought relief from misery, and then it simply ran out of road. But the strangest evidence of all comes from zooming all the way out. Back in the 1970s, an economist named Richard Easterlin noticed something that still hasn't been fully explained. At any single moment, inside a country, richer people genuinely are happier than poorer people. But track an entire nation across decades as it grows dramatically wealthier and average happiness barely moves at all. The United States is a textbook case. Americans today are far richer than they were in the 1970s. Bigger homes, more technology, more of nearly everything, and reported national happiness has stayed essentially flat the entire time. It's called the Easterlin Paradox, and the leading explanation is the exact trap you're caught in. When everyone climbs together, nobody pulls ahead in the comparison that actually counts. The whole society sprints forward and stays in precisely the same place. So here's what's really happening when you can't feel rich. You were never actually chasing money. You were chasing a feeling. The feeling of having arrived, of being ahead, of finally being enough. But that feeling is produced by two systems that reset the instant you reach them. Your own brain resets its baseline, so today's luxury quietly becomes tomorrow's ordinary. And your social world resets its standard, so every step up just sets you down beside people standing one step higher. The target moves the moment you touch it. Every time, by design, which leaves you with an uncomfortable question. If rich isn't a number, if it's a comparison your mind silently recalculates the second you get there, then there may be no income on earth that flips the switch. The person earning 10 times what you earn is, right now, looking up at someone earning 10 times more than that, feeling the exact thing you feel tonight. You will never feel rich, not because you don't have enough, but because the part of you keeping score was never built to let you win.